A sense of what political parties would like to hear. We're now joined in studio by Michael Beaumont, national chairperson of ActionSA, to get the party's sense of, Michael, essentially what the institution of Sona stands for, I guess, in 2023. Hello to you.
Yeah, hello, Dudu. I think it's become such a disappointing institution. It should really matter in our country, where a vision should be articulated that South Africans can get behind. But if we're very honest with ourselves, Sona has become something of a joke. We have a president who will be returning again to layer promises on the foundation of what was broken before, promises that were never delivered. We have an official opposition who, in spite of these broken promises, is incapable of winning support away from the ANC. And we have the EFF who come year after year with promises to disrupt this entire process. All while South Africans are sitting at home watching people walking down a red carpet like they're going to a matric dance. It is an entire process that's just out of touch with the needs of South Africans at this point in time.
So we take it ActionSA is not going to the ball?
No, certainly. I think our president will be there in as much as we need to be able to comment on the outcomes of these proceedings. But the entire institution has just become out of touch with the needs of South Africans who are sitting at home in load shedding, unemployed in the amount of 43% of our population. And the process needs to gain credibility by way of promises being delivered upon.
And this is also not a cheap exercise. We know that the budget will be 8 million or a little over 8 million rand, which is similar to last year. But last year they underspent, so they spent just over 5 million rand. Is the money worth it? From what I'm hearing from you, definitely not.
Well, I think the money it would be easier to say the money was worth it if we had promises that were being delivered upon. I mean, just in a cursory glance by way of the president's own office, they are reporting themselves that they have failed their commitment to produce the 6,800 megawatts of additional renewable energy, to deal with the 3,000 megawatts of gas power and 50 megawatts of battery storage. They've failed in terms of their land reform agenda, and the list goes on and on. Now, the point is, in a country like ours with the challenges we have, when the president's own office is communicating that they have failed to deliver on these promises, there's a country that should be expecting consequences and accountability. And yet what we will see is a president who returns to Parliament tomorrow and proceeds to talk about new promises rather than the ones that haven't been delivered already.
What options are then available to not only yourselves, but to South Africans? I mean, you spoke of opposition parties that are not able to chow into the ruling party and gain support. What does that then tell you?
Well, the only solution has to lie in the ballot box. I think we need to see a situation where South Africans come together and they act out against what has been the abuse at the hands of their government, as well as the political establishment more broadly. And they come out and register their voices in next year's election. They register to vote in record numbers, and they vote in record numbers, because we can no longer have a situation where in 2021 we had 48 days of load shedding, and 2022 we had over 220. All the while our political establishment is promising us that load shedding will be done away with. When the political establishment makes these promises and fails to deliver, we need to ensure that accountability is exercised at the ballot box.
There's a plan of a just energy transition. We're getting money, or money is being promised to the country to get out of essentially coal in the name of saving the environment. Does that not go some way in maybe quelling the tension?
Well, the problem is not that there's been a lack of a plan. The problem is that those plans have not been executed. So if you go through it, last year it was the new national consensus and the social compact. The year before it was economic reconstruction and recovery plan. The year before that it was breaking up Eskom and renewal. And of course, who can forget the 2019 smart cities and bullet trains? You see, this is the challenge we're facing, is that it's not about a lack of ideas and plans. It's that year after year these things are spoken about and they are rebranded and repackaged in order to create some sense of belief among the South African people. And then year after year we return with nothing tangible to point at by saying this plan was actually executed.
So essentially, what is the call from ActionSA? What would you like to maybe not hear, but to see?
Well, I think we've got to see action. We can't have another Sona where there are more promises layered on top of the promises that have not been delivered. We need to have a Sona where there's a real owning up to the situation in our country. There is not a fantastical kind of idea of what our country is that is different from the lived realities of the South African people. And there are real consequences being laid down for things not being achieved. What is the president going to say about a minister of energy when we have not implemented the promises of the last Sona when it comes to getting rid of load shedding? What are we saying about a minister of transport who was supposed to undertake the reopening of priority passenger rail corridors, and it still hasn't been done? But I'm afraid we don't see enough of these consequences.
Let's talk, maybe if you'll indulge me as we speak, we're seeing SA Tourism appearing before the Portfolio Committee on Tourism. This is, of course, the controversial proposed deal between South Africa and Tottenham Hotspur that is set to, go close to R1 billion. ActionSA's position on that as they appear, the CEO apologizing for his tone, but sticking to his guns, saying that the business of marketing South Africa is their core business. Fixing everything else, that's not on them.
Yeah, it's one of these unique situations in South African government where you have a situation where, marketing is the job of one department and fixing the country is a different issue altogether, when in fact these are all one and the same issue. There's no question tourism is vital to our economy. We know that. It's a labor-intensive industry that can create a lot of jobs. We know that as well. We know that marketing a country is important, but what are we marketing? At the moment, we have a country that can't keep the lights on, that can't keep tourists safe, that doesn't have an established transport network so that people can travel to the beautiful destinations in our country. We need to prioritize these things rather than prioritizing how we brand South Africa overseas. I think that's where the priority work has to lie.
Sure. Michael Beaumont, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll speak after the State of the Nation address as well. Michael Beaumont is with ActionSA.